It's time to party on the street, either in Rio or New Orleans. It's the Mardi Gras, which is French for Fat Tuesday, and traditionally marks the close of the pre-Lenten season. It was called Fat Tuesday because all the fats at home were used in cooking before Lent to prepare for fasting. So put on your green, gold and purple, symbolizing faith, power and justice, and let's go party. Welcome to Kaleidoscope. To our irreplaceable partners on the show, Skills for Inclusive Growth and Australian Aid, Srilanka Life, CDB, The Morning Newspaper, Park Street Gourmet and Zip Zip. Thank you. You're awesome. If you like Kaleidoscope, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
You can now start a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit and experience a range of special benefits from CDB.
Looking back at the week that was on CDB Snapshot, the CBSL governor says inflation is likely to come down below 10% by end 2023. Sri Lanka's income from tourism grows by 6.7% year on year to $162 million in January. Foreign remittances increases to $437.5 million in January 2023 year on year. Credit card spending persists. The outstanding balance rises by 2.7 billion rupees. Sri Lanka will ban single-use plastics and will prohibit the manufacture and sale of plastic cutlery from June. A pod of 14 pilot whales were stranded on the beaches of Kalpite last week. 3 whales died, but 11 baby whales were pushed back into the sea. A Texan zoo allows you to name a cockroach after an ex-lover. Oh, and the cockroach gets fed to animals.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome, this is our Srilanka Life News Capsule. If we have more female labour force participation, we can boost our economy by 14%, and that is an addition of $20 billion by 2025. So, what's stopping women from going to work? Senior Research Analyst Econ at Verite Research, Sumini Siambalapitia, joined me in the studio for some startling revelations. Now, your research focused on costs incurred by urban women in Sri Lanka, basically the cost of doing a job. Why did you focus on urban women?
The reason that our study looked at costs incurred by urban women is because one, in terms of just practically doing this sort of research study, it just made sense to focus on where the formal labor market was more focused, which was in urban areas. Particularly, we focused on the Western province. But also, this was more of a pilot study, considering the fact that this type of study, where we tried to quantify the monetary and non-monetary costs incurred by women, had not been conducted before.
So, in a quantifiable sense, what were your findings?
So, to put it all very shortly, every 100 rupees that urban women earn in Sri Lanka cost them 160 rupees, which is pretty significant.
So there are no established guidelines or regulations when it comes to the provision of childcare, which I saw in your research was one of the biggest problems that urban women had. But there are countries that have instituted regulations and standards for childcare, Singapore being one. What have been the tangible benefits that Singapore as a country has had because of introducing these things?
So countries like Singapore, what they did right is not just think of this in terms of, oh, we're doing this to benefit women, but how is this an economically smart decision, and how is this a long-term decision to really build our human capital in terms of our future citizens and our future workforce? Starting from that point, they regulated the childcare industry, because one of the main issues that we found, and is generally also an accepted issue worldwide, is that women and families are very hesitant to trust childcare centers. So how do you bridge that trust deficit? And then once you bridge that, how do you make childcare affordable? And when you bridge those issues for families, and you also make sure that quality childcare is made sure that children's development is guaranteed, those are the things that Singapore did. And as a result, like you see that about almost 65% of Singapore's adult women are in the formal labor market. And this is more than double what Sri Lanka has. Sri Lanka is really poor in this area. We're only 31%, and it's a number that has stagnated for decades now. Their economic success is a result of also a lot of inclusive policies that aren't just, oh, we're being nice to women, but we're really doing this because it's the smart thing to do, and it's what guarantees a successful workforce, both in the future and the present.
And here's what our markets looked like this week. Net foreign inflows crossed the 4 billion rupee mark, but panic selling pushed the all-share price index down by 3%, although optimism returned at the end of the week. The average daily turnover, however, still remained below 2 billion rupees. US crude inventories rose for the 8th straight week, keeping a cap on WTI oil prices at around $78 per barrel. Gold prices fell to $1,836 per ounce as the US dollar continued to strengthen, with the likelihood of the Federal Reserve increasing interest rates. Scientists are on a quest for plastic-eating enzymes that can break down polyester into raw material building blocks. This will help recycle polyester clothing and stop millions of tons of waste ending up in landfills or being burned every year. The catwalk at New York Fashion Week saw the dogs walk. Canine models showed off clothing that protected animals, was good for their health, and raised funds for animal welfare organizations. Up next is S4IG Let's Talk, and we have the MD and CEO of CG Corp Global and CG Hospitality, Rahul Chaudhary, on why the group has so much investor confidence in Sri Lanka. Way back in 2001, in the thick of the war in Sri Lanka, Nepal's first and only billionaire Binod Chaudhary made an investment in Sri Lanka. And that was in the Taj Samudra, a project that set him off on a global hospitality trade that now has 141 properties in 12 countries. The conglomerate he founded, CG Corp Global, has a presence in 15 business verticals across 32 countries in 5 continents. And in Sri Lanka, CG Corp's footprint has grown to 13 properties and a bank as well. I visited the Taj Samudra to catch up with MD and CEO of CG Corp Global and CG Hospitality, Rahul Chaudhary, mainly to find out why the Chaudharys have such an investor confidence in Sri Lanka. Rahul, welcome.
Thank you, Savithri.
What is it that makes you come to Sri Lanka and continue to invest? Because I know that you invested in the worst of times.
And you know, when my father visited here, I mean, he felt it the moment he came here that the fundamentals of the countries were so strong. And we also felt the people are nice, the country is beautiful, and the market was just picking up at that point in time, although it was the most difficult time, yes. But I would say that everything seems so ripe and so nice. And our strategy, CG strategy, always has been to be in frontier and emerging markets that have perhaps come out of turmoil, come out of war in their own ways. And we've always felt that that's where the opportunities are. And we are here to stay, and we continue to grow in the difficult times.
From an investor perspective, what do you find attractive about Sri Lanka?
We've seen Sri Lanka grow. Number one, from a development perspective. I mean, if you just talk about this Gaul Road here, there was only Taj Samudra, nothing else. And now when you, Taj Samudra and actually the Gaul Face Hotel, and now you look at it, my gosh, you have the port city, you have the ITC, you have the Shangri-La, one of the biggest malls, and when you see behind us, you don't even want to start going in terms of the direction that Sri Lanka has moved with high-rise buildings. And you know, I've always looked at the ability of any country to be able to bring back its investors. That means it's like Sri Lankans bringing back in Sri Lankans to invest into Sri Lanka just shows how well the country's development has grown.
While everything you say is true, Sri Lanka just has not been able to attract the kind of investment we really need. Why is that?
Post-COVID, the country could have done a better job in terms of the branding of the country itself. Also in terms of perception to the outer world. I mean, I say that to you all the time, that I feel like I'm half Sri Lankan. So I keep coming here all the time. So I see it on the ground that there's nothing wrong. Everything is normal. Life goes on. But think about someone who's not even here. They can purely go by only what is being fed to them by the media and what they hear or get to see about Sri Lanka itself. And I believe that that's an area which is really lacking behind.
What is an investor looking for if he's looking at investing in Sri Lanka?
If you want to again position yourself as the center of excellence and focus and investment like Singapore, you have to get international investors coming back or making sure that those that are already here are given the due support, given the due encouragement, so that anything that happens on the ground, there's a reason why we are here, because we see that there is a system here. We feel that there is always support from the financial sectors, from the authorities. I think that needs, and this is a time when that needs to go one step further.
What plans do you have for Sri Lanka?
There are 4 to 5 different verticals through which we have grown. One is hospitality, where we have now, humbly so, we have about 150 hotels now in 12 countries. And banks, we have the largest bank in the private sector in Nepal. And now we are investing into one in Sri Lanka. Telecom, the group owns the second largest telecom company in Moldova. And never know if there is a telecom opportunity here. We are always open. FMCG, that's one of our large sectors as well. The brand YY, which is the brainchild of our chairman, my father, Mr. Binod Chaudhary. Now, we are already in over 35 countries. Now, if we are always open to looking at investment opportunities or buying into companies, buying out companies that will help supplement our distribution, supplement our spread in different parts of the world. But let's see.
May you continue being the goodwill ambassador for investment for Sri Lanka, as you have always been, and good luck with all your plans.
No, thank you so much, Savithri.
When you want that little bit of gourmet luxury, just pop into Park Street Gourmet. Everything that luxury has to offer under just one roof. Park Street Gourmet, where gastronomes shop. Today is opening night of I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change. It is the second longest running musical off-Broadway and being staged here at the Lionel Went by Stage Light and Magic. Keep coming back. Keep coming back. Back in this reckless joy I thrive. I hereby concede what I need to survive is to look at you and say, I love you, you're perfect, I love you, you're perfect, now change. What you just saw was me peeking in at rehearsals on this story of love, dating, marriage, breakup, divorce and old age, and I had to have a chat with artistic director Sashen Pereira to find out more. Sashen, this is supposed to be a fun and relaxed musical, but you're dealing with some very heavy subjects.
We're talking about the overarching theme of love. Yes, it's deep, but at the same time there are aspects of love which are fun, which are going to evoke laughter, and that's what we really talk about. We talk about the unsaid realities of love, which can be funny. Technically, it's a tough musical purely because you have around 20 to 22 independent scenes which are bound by one theme of love, but at the same time, they don't interconnect at any point. So when you really look at it, you're looking at 20 different plays which you want to bring as one big narrative.
This weekend, make sure to catch I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change at the Lionel Went. We'll see you next week.